What's up, everybody? Welcome to the horrorheadspodcast. I am Rich Mallery. I'm here with my co-host, Jerry Lourenco.
What up?
And this is episode number 4. All right, we fucking did it. 4 episodes. Every time I'm shocked that we actually got to this point, but
it's not real.
I think we're getting in the flow, though. I think we're getting good at this. Although who knows? Really, all I wanted to do today was drink bourbon. So if we weren't doing this, I'd find an excuse, and this was luckily an excuse built into that. So
Wait, I thought we were just drinking bourbon.
We're going to talk about a couple of movies actually. While we
talk about
drink
movies
bourbon.
too.
Yeah, I know. So today we're going to talk about 2 movies in particular. One is called Diced. The other is called Stopmotion. But before we get into all of that, my favorite part of the podcast is, what are you drinking tonight?
Oh, wow, man! Things are moving quick. It's like it's episode 4, and I still don't know the procedure yet.
No small talk, man, until I start drinking, because Daddy needs a drink over here. What do you got?
It's Clyde May, single barrel, 5-year, 102 proof.
102 proof. Woo!
Yeah, it's Tuesday. I have an easy day tomorrow, so
I was gonna go heavy proof today, but instead I'm doing something else. This is 92 proof, which I guess is nothing to laugh at, but I'm drinking a little Hudson Whiskey New York today. 5-year New York straight bourbon whiskey, single barrel select. So
single barrel, very nice.
Yeah, and I'd never really see Hudson here, very rarely see it, and it's really kind of special to me when I buy it, because many years ago, when I was visiting New York, I went to the Hudson Distillery, and it was pretty fucking dope. Middle of nowhere, from what I remember. Kind of like this. And I might be remembering this wrong because I did drink a lot that day, but just felt like almost like a cabin in the woods kind of situation. But
I mean, is it a dumb question? Is it in the Hudson Valley?
Like it is in the Hudson Valley.
Right. Like, I didn't know if that was an obvious question, but yeah, okay, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I believe at least it used to be free to go there for a tour, and they gave you all kinds of, I tried all different kinds of stuff, and it was a lot of fun. So if it's still open, I would suggest checking it out. It's not that far from where you are, but I'm going to pour. Ooh, that's a big pour.
I love Hudson, so I never had that one, but I do love Hudson. So I'm going to say cheers, and then I want to hear about it because I never had that one before.
All right, cheers. Oh, this is interesting. It reminds me of Bullet for some reason.
Really?
It has like a grainy taste to it. It's not a bad thing. It tastes like to me, it tastes like an elevated Bullet.
Really? Hudson usually has that craft taste to me. Did they kind of like filter that out being the single barrel?
Must be, because it's tastes. The only way I could describe it is grainy. That's how I always think of Bullet. And like it kind of bites a little bit. It's good. I wouldn't say it's smooth like I would normally drink. I usually like bourbons that are a lot smoother. It's not smooth, but that doesn't mean it's not good.
Well, I think it's amazing that we're both drinking 5-year single barrels. Bit of a coincidence. We totally did not plan this. Mine is like drinking Hellfire is burning, man. That 102 proof is really up front. Best way, I mean, I could explain this is has maybe a little bit of vanilla towards the end, but it stays strong the whole way through the sip. So it never lets off that burn. So I wouldn't say mine is very smooth either, but like I normally say, I guarantee once I get through this glass, I'm not going to care, and I'm just going to be drinking it. So
I think after you get through the 3rd sip, you're not going to care anymore. Also, one thing I want to call out is this is the first time, and I know we've only done 3 other episodes, where you didn't mention it had a caramel taste. So vanilla sounds interesting.
There is no caramel. This has, I could be confusing caramel for like a chocolatey or some sort of sweet taste. This doesn't have that. This has something a little airy, so I'm guessing it's vanilla-ish, like a vanilla bean. That's kind of what I'm like, not like a sweet vanilla, like something very subdued. That's really all I'm getting from that, and heat, a lot of heat. But yeah, no caramel this time, but I guarantee the next one I have. It's probably caramel on top of caramel.
Vanilla is probably one of my favorite flavors. I love vanilla in drinks, and so I'm excited to try this. I want to go pick it up next time I see it.
Well, I would say check it out. It's Clyde May 5 year. I normally don't get Clyde May. I had it once before and I absolutely hated it. But I was in like one of those like large kind of mall liquor stores and they were doing a tasting and they had three different Clyde Mays there. They had like a single barrel, they had like a barrel strength, and something else, like some sort of reserve one or something like that. I tried them all and I thought they were all horrible until I got to this one. And I thought it was just so fantastic. And I don't know if it was just that maybe I had the other two first and, feeling a little tipsy, just kind of like gunning down some shots in the middle of a store. But this actually had a fantastic taste, neat out of a plastic cup. So I was like, you know what? I bet at home it's going to be pretty good. And I drink it a lot. It's almost empty. So if you
Wow.
could see that, we're about almost there. So
So it should be empty by the time this episode is done,
I hope not, but we'll see.
actually. Yeah, I'm glad you picked like a high proof bourbon because on the past few episodes we've reviewed like a movie, we've talked about a lot of directors, and like last time we instituted that drinking game, and I just have a feeling by my feelings about these two movies that we watched, and we only did watch two for this purpose. I think the drinking game is gonna not get you fucked up. So I am glad.
Really? I
I don't know.
mean,
We'll see. We'll see when we get there. But I feel like you're gonna be taking it easy when it comes to that part of the game. So I'm glad you're already gonna be ahead by drinking the high proof. So
yeah, I listened back to that last podcast and maybe things got a little too out of hand. I don't even know if we were making sense towards the end. So if anyone checks that out, you can let us know if that made any sense at all.
yeah, I
Or
think
if we
after we
just
get to the
rambling.
hour mark, it's just being
Turn it off.
slurs.
You can just turn it off. Yeah, I wasn't driving, so don't call the police whatever you hear. Yeah, just
Yeah, once we started talking about Kid Cudi's dick, I think it went off the rails. I don't know. But we'll see. I don't think we're going to be talking about that tonight. So
I
we will
mean, I'll just
see.
talk about it in general. I mean, it's just kind of like a topic of conversation that comes up a lot, but
So what was I gonna say? So there's actually like it's interesting. There's a bunch of new movies coming out in theaters right now for horror, like smaller movies, but like so there's Immaculate with Sydney Sweeney that I really want to see because I wouldn't say I'm the hugest fan of religious horror. I do like that as a genre, but Sydney Sweeney is just super hot, so I'll watch anything she's in. There's something called Imaginary that I don't know anything about, other than I think it's about a stuffed teddy bear that comes to life. And then there's a couple other movies. There's this movie Late Night with the Devil, which
oh yeah.
I saw the trailer. It looks super cool, very different, stylized movie. And there's a bit of controversy about that movie. Do you know anything about like what people are saying right now?
It's just getting a lot of buzz right now on social media. I mean, everyone's seen it in the theaters, and I'm hoping to catch it myself in theaters. All I saw was the trailer. I don't know much outside of that, but just recently it moved to some theaters close to me. So I think I will be able to hop in and see it maybe next week.
Yeah. So the controversy, I guess, that you don't know, some people are kind of talking about boycotting the movie for whatever reason. It's
What?
that, yeah, no. So apparently there's a few shots that are like cutaway shots to pieces of art that was done with AI. And there are a lot of people, mostly probably people in the entertainment industry, that are against using AI in any artistic purpose. And apparently, like this really has nothing to do with the movie. Like it could probably not be there. Again, I haven't seen the movie, so I don't know. And I believe it's three different images that were created by AI. And I just like to me, like, look, I'm against using AI for art purposes. I think it's going to ultimately lose a lot of people work at some point. However, that is not going to stop me from seeing this movie, just a few images. And I kind of like, again, I don't know the reasoning behind what they did it, but I do understand like when you're making a movie and maybe they didn't have extra budget to commission art. I don't know, maybe they didn't have time, maybe it was something they did really quickly. So until I like know more, I'm not going to kind of make a big deal about it. I still am going to see and support the movie. I mean, does that kind of influence you at all? Like, do you even
I
care?
mean, it sounds like it's a prop, not necessarily art. And I would have to, and tell me if I'm wrong here, in my thinking, but what would be different from that than say using like a CGI effect?
I guess the difference would be someone actually created the CGI effect. Although, again, like I've never used CGI, so maybe there's some like AI involved with that too. So I don't know. People are making a big deal about it.
Really? I mean, uh, hmm. Well, I work with AI, so I am definitely not opposed to it. Yeah, for artistic measures, it's a bit dicey there. I totally understand that. A lot of people, like when AI was first starting to like create a buzz, people are like, oh, I made this Oasis song with AI that's better than them, or
And it
here's
might be.
yeah, I mean,
I'm not a huge Oasis fan, so
I mean, you're setting the bar real low, so I'm not quite sure, like, where they're going with that. But I mean, to me, AI is a door that's open, that's never gonna be closed again. So if it could help you with your movie, help you with your whatever your time constraints, your budget constraints. I'm sorry, I don't know if I'm right or wrong here, but I'm going to say use it because I think when you're working with a low budget, you have to use every tool at your disposal and make the most of it. So I certainly wouldn't boycott someone with that. And I don't know the budget of this movie, but I'm assuming it's under 2 million or 3 million. I'm assuming that. So
yeah, I'm not really sure either. And look, I do think that they probably could have got some artist to even give them something for free, like based on, right? It's like a IFC Films movie. So like I think, and again, without knowing the process behind why they decided to use these three particular things, like my gut tells me it was something like, oh shit, we need something, like we need it right now and let's do it. I don't know. I do feel, I think people are a bit protective because again, like it is only a matter of time before AI eliminates a lot of artists. And I think people just need to adapt to it, unfortunately. And again, I think if the whole movie was AI or if it was like integral to the movie, I'd probably have a different opinion. But based on what I read, I'm still gonna watch it, and we'll see what happens. But anyway, so that's that.
I know they're trying to pull some other marketing stunt with which has been popping around the internet all day today. And before I even say it, I'm going to say that this is false, but they've been saying that on Sunday it grossed $666,666, and it's like it certainly did not do that, and the odds of that is 1 in probably 5 trillion. So
Unless they just stopped selling tickets at that point and said like we're cutting it off.
it's totally impossible. But you know what? To me, brilliant. Just float something out there like that, and all of a sudden everyone's talking. Like the horror community is talking. I can't believe this. Do you believe that? And it's whether you believe it or not, it's fun. It's fun to believe it. So these guys are definitely working their angles. So I hope the movie lives up to expectations because it's getting a lot of hype.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't know. Again, I don't know much about it other than the trailer, but I definitely do want to check it out. And speaking of, I guess, the devil and new movies that are coming out, I saw just happened to catch a commercial that they are making. Well, not they are making. They are releasing a new Omen movie called The First Omen, which I guess is a prequel to the Omen. And I can't believe this is the sixth movie in the Omen franchise. And I'm not a fan. Like, I've only seen the original and the remake. And I really, honestly, for whatever reason, my whole life, I just could care less about the sequels. I just didn't really have any interest in watching them for whatever reason. I think I even tried to watch one once and just turned it off. Might have been bored or whatever. But I did rewatch the original Omen the other day just because we're looking for something to watch. And I do actually really like it. The 1976 one. I think again, like there's some really creepy, intense moments. The music is really good. It's powerful. I like the idea of it. Like, and I think this came right after Rosemary's Baby and The Exorcist, so they were just looking for like to do another satanic kind of movie, and this seemed kind of like higher budget for something like this that should have been, I'm guessing, because of the success of those movies. Like the lead actor is Gregory Peck, who was a
Oh yeah.
well-known actor at the time. I was doing some research on the movie, and apparently, and I don't know really what the climate was in 1976, but it almost got an X rating for violence.
Wow.
And I don't believe they actually cut anything out. I think they just kind of like had negotiated or whatever. And there's the scene in particular that almost got an X. It's a really cool scene where I don't know if you remember this, but there's a scene where the journalist that's kind of helping Gregory Peck's character learn about what's going on a series of events happens, almost like a Final Destination, where like a truck backs up and then
Yes,
a plate of
I
glass
know where you're going. The plate of glass and it cuts his head off.
cuts his head right off,
Yeah,
and it's in slow motion from like 6 different camera angles, and it's super fucking dope.
that's the
And like
highlight of the
I
film.
yeah, and I forgot all about that because like I'm watching the movie and like it's like a bunch of shit happens, but nothing like over the top like that. And then I was like, wait, I remember this guy catching it. I remember him dying, but like I don't remember how. And then I was like, oh, now I remember. That was so fucking cool. And yeah, apparently that almost got it an X rating.
I mean that was brutal. And yeah, definitely. I mean, given the context of the movie, like most 70s horror, a lot of nothing happens for like an hour, and then all of a sudden they turn on that burner, man, and they
Oh yeah, and yeah, there's a good 45 minutes in the movie where again they're figuring out like what actually is happening. They're figuring out the whole plot of the movie, which maybe in like when this movie first came out that was necessary. Now when you watch the movie, it's like I know it's about the devil's child. I don't need to like go through all the steps that they learn like that it's the devil's child. Like you could just tell me I got it. So it does kind of drag a bit if you're not interested in the mystery aspect of it. But like why I mentioned the X rating that's interesting is the new one apparently almost got an NC-17 rating for there's one scene in particular, and I believe they cut the scene down, but apparently there was something either graphic or whatnot. And just again doing more research on the movie, what I found like was really interesting while watching this movie, it's the last like 20 minutes or so. Basically, this guy is about to kill his son, and like that's got really fucked up. And even the way he does it, like there's one point where the kid gets knocked out, they both fall down the stairs, and he's like dragging the kid's body like a limp body. And I'm like, wow, this is really fucked up. And like I wonder if they would do something like this now. And apparently the original ending of the film was he kills the son, and they wouldn't be able to get an R rating with that, so they changed the ending where the kid actually lives, and that's what spawns all of the sequels. Because the kid dies, there's no Omen 2, right? I mean, maybe there would be, but I don't know. I found that really interesting.
I mean, that's a lot of great trivia there. I mean, I didn't know, I had no idea. You know, you watch something 100 times and you never really kind of like look into the details of it. Probably because when we started watching these films, we weren't these details weren't available. So you really have to think to go back. It's like you feel like you know everything about this movie, but wow, I had no idea about any of these things.
Yeah, and it made me appreciate it more. And the other thing I learned too, and again, I don't know how there's a bunch of things about this movie that are untrue, that like certain things happen that didn't happen. Like there's a scene where there's a bunch of baboons and they like attack the car that the mom and Damien are in. And that scene is fucking intense. Like it's actually scary. And apparently, like this is true. The baboons really were attacking the car, and the actress and the kid were actually terrified that something was going to happen. There's a rumor that like one of the zookeepers ended up getting mauled by the baboons, but like there's no proof of that. Like there's a bunch of shit like that. But what I found was interesting is so Gregory Peck had pretty much like was done with acting. Like he wasn't really doing much anymore. He was kind of over it. And what drew him to this movie was his son had died. I believe I might be wrong on this, but I believe it was like a suicide, or if not, it was a tragic death. And when he read the script, it was about a father struggling, with this, demon kid, and it really kind of spoke to him based on the own trauma that he was going through. So I thought that was pretty cool. It's also the only horror movie I've ever seen that has a giraffe in it, which giraffes are fucking cool. So I watched that, and then I watched this other movie that I didn't like as much, called The Woods, and it's from 2006. The director is Lucky McGee, who is really well known for May, which is another movie I really didn't like. A lot of people love that movie. I saw it once a long time ago and it didn't pull me in. So this was his follow-up to that movie, and he had a much bigger budget. Apparently, the budget was like 12 million for this movie. It was meant to be a theatrical release, but it ended up getting shelved for various reasons with the studio. And The Woods is about this young girl who's problematic, who sets fires, who her mom just kind of wants to get rid of her, so she sends her to this all girls boarding school, which is in the middle of the woods. Then some things start happening where kids start disappearing. The woods may or may not be alive. The school may or may not be run by witches, blah, blah, blah. What I liked about this movie, there are things I liked about it, is the look of it. It like felt like it took place in 1975. Like the way he shot it, it looked very like that. It had like that Suspiria vibe to it in a way. Like there's some really creepy moments. and I was really wanting to like this movie for those reasons. Unfortunately, like it's a lot of just not a lot happening or just repetitive things. It was hard to really tell what was going on. The the one there's basically one guy in this movie and who's her father, and he's played by Bruce Campbell, who it's very difficult to see him in anything but Evil Dead. Like I just can't take him seriously, and he's supposed to be like a serious-ish role. And I just kept thinking, like, oh my God, that's Ash. And there's like some bad CGI with trees because the trees kind of attack people and stuff like that. And the other thing, I don't know if this movie was supposed to be like metaphors for feminism and things like that, and maybe there was a bigger point to it. But like one thing that kind of like I thought was odd, it's Bruce Campbell's the only male character. In the end, he kind of like comes to the rescue like with this axe. And I'm not going to say if he rescues his daughter or whatnot, but I just found odd that you have this very female powered movie, and then like here's the guy coming to save the
It's the
day
hero.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe it was an odd movie. Again, I didn't like it. I felt it was a little too long and boring, but the look of it looks super cool. And again, it has that feeling that this is like a movie from the 70s. If you didn't know, you might think that like, oh, this is like an old movie. So yeah, not a fan of that. Not a fan again of the director in general. I saw this other movie he did, The Woman, that I really did not like. So I don't know, but some people love him. So there you go. So that's kind of what I've been up to, other than the two movies we're going to dive into. How about you?
Yeah, I watched a couple things. Had a good horror week. In case anyone else wants to know, the Amityville Horror is still like doing marathons on Stars. So every now and then I'm flipping through, the channels, and there's a few
Oh,
on. So
save that. We're
I'll
gonna we're gonna
just
do a whole Amity
yeah,
episode. Yeah, yeah.
I'll just watch them though, just to have like some background if I'm working or whatever. I'm sticking around my phone or something like that. But that's been on. But yeah, I checked out a couple films this week. I checked out this movie called The Hollow. It's from 2015, and I really started getting into like folk and folklore horror. I was trying to find something, along those lines, and I do run an October horror movie challenge, so I try to incorporate like folk and folklore every year, and but I only watch it like really that one time. So I was really craving like more because I don't feel like I watched it enough. So I found this on Shutter. It had fairly good reviews, and I'm like, you know what? Let me give it a try. Normally, it's decent if it's on Shutter. So it's really like this English conservationist guy. He moves with his family to Ireland to do some studying on some trees, like in the woods.
Interesting. Very
Yeah,
similar.
yeah. So I get we both craving like the same
Tree
thing,
movies.
but so this guy moves into like this small Irish town, and it's folklore. So of course the locals are there and they're warning him, it's like don't go messing out in those woods, quit playing around in there. Leave that area alone, because apparently there's some evil baby stealing fairies that live there and you don't want to screw with them, right? So the first scene is this guy like backpacking through the woods looking at trees, and he has his like infant baby like in a backpack as he's like going through the woods. First of all, this scene very stupid and dangerous, and I'm like, why is this guy doing this? And there's really like no sounds or anything like that, stuff like these, like the baby making sounds. And he finds some stuff and he's like talking to the baby and things like that. And I'm like, all right, I mean, I guess this is going to be okay. I'm like, I'll follow through with this. I kind of know where it's going to go. But after that, really all I remember is the baby crying in every single scene. And it was so loud. And every time like they would start dialogue, it's like this baby would just start crying, like fairly upfront, not really in the background. I'm like, it's fucking annoying. And it was literally every single scene. And I guess they were trying to make some sort of mood or set some sort of tone there, because obviously a baby is going to get stolen and they don't want you to forget about the baby. I'm not forgetting about the baby. Okay. It's crying every 10 seconds. And it was just overdone. There was no balance, and I'm gonna be completely honest with you, it was too fucking annoying, and I turned it off after 40 minutes. I couldn't deal with it anymore. So I could deal with dumb stuff, I could deal with gory stuff, but you know what? I'm not gonna deal with annoying shit. And that's just something I'm not gonna deal with. And I couldn't take it.
I mean, most likely they probably added all that in post, right? I mean, I highly doubt, unless like the baby actually was crying and they just couldn't shut it the fuck up. But like, they probably did that just like you said for mood, and yeah, that would drive me insane. I could probably tolerate that for about 3 minutes before I'm like, okay, I get it. Like you said, I know the baby's there. I don't need to hear it the entire time. It's like when they have like a dog barking for long periods of time. It's like I heard it. Like now my brain knows there's a dog. I don't need to keep hearing it. It's like too much.
Yeah, give the watcher a benefit of the doubt that they're following along, they understand. So I don't recommend it, unless you like that sort of thing. I don't. I would say just watch Unwelcome instead. It's exactly the same movie with almost the same premise minus the crying baby. So
When did that come out? I've never heard of that.
that was 2019 maybe. I think it's they call them fairies, but they look more like those Lorne dwarf things.
Garden gnomes?
Yeah, gnomes. That's it. Yeah. It looked like it looked like yeah, they look like garden gnomes. Yeah. So I didn't get to see the monsters in the hollow, but I was never gonna get there with that baby crying. So if you're into folklore, I say check out Unwelcome instead.
So two movies about trees we watched, neither of which we liked.
I also checked out something else, which this was just, I think I got home a little late on Friday and I just needed something to watch. I wasn't tired. So I put on this movie called Dead of the Night. It's on Prime from 2021. And basically, it's like this small town in Texas, and people are being terrorized and stalked by like these two like weird killers that wear like animal kind of masks and skins, and they communicate with each other by making like these animal noises.
No, okay,
So
all right.
yeah, I mean they're like terrorizing the town and they're stalking people and killing them, kind of catch them on the road, they trick them into like opening their car doors, things like that. Climax is really like they attack like this brother and sister at like this isolated farmhouse, and the brother and sister really just have to fight them off to like survive the night. It was kind of interesting. It had a real like western kind of feel. It wasn't like modern kind of Texas. There was like horse riding and ranching going on,
Okay.
like little bit of Yellowstone happening there. There's a couple of gory kills, a lot of stupid people going outside, tough Texans like, you better get out of here. I'm gonna shoot your ass, and all of a sudden they're dead. And 2 seconds later, so it's kind of funny if you like, things like that. It was okay. It was bad, but I felt like watching something kind of bad at that moment. So I would say I recommend it because I got through it, and it definitely wasn't the worst thing I ever saw.
So what kind of weapons were they using?
Mostly, so they had two, so each one had like a specialized kind of weapon. So one of the killers had a shotgun, and the other one was like a knife expert, like big Bowie knives. So depending on which one you met up with was what you dealt with.
I think I would check it out just for something different. Like,
It was definitely different. It was like a survival type horror, that takes up the majority of the film. Is basically this long face off between the brother and sister and these two killers.
so kind of like the second Strangers movie, or
Yeah, I would say yeah, it is like that. Yeah, I mean it especially has that feel a lot because it does feel like a bit of a home invasion. It does feel very isolated. Yeah, it's very dark. The whole movie takes place like in the dark. So yeah, I think it has a lot of those elements. I say check it out if there's literally nothing else to watch, or you just want to like be amused by something that you probably haven't saw anything like it before. So it was decent.
yeah, once you said they're making animal noises, I was kind of like, okay, I could get into this. I'll check this out.
No talking. Yeah, the killers didn't talk. They'd like me. What? Like it's like
Wait, do that again?
definitely less
That
annoying
was
than
like the
that
worst animal
baby.
sounds I ever heard. I don't know.
I can specify what kind of animal it was. Like, do you know what like a raccoon sounds like?
You know what? I actually do because
Oh,
I have them in my backyard, and like a few times they've scared the shit out of me when I go back there at night sometimes, and they're just kind of like they're not afraid of me, but I'm definitely terrified of them.
okay. So I feel like they were making like raccoon noises. Can you make a raccoon noise?
You know, I no.
All right. Well, that
I
was my
cannot.
attempt. So
Like I'm not even gonna try it because once it's on the internet, that's forever, and I'm not
that's
doing
it.
it.
Yeah. All right. Just punch that part out. Thanks.
Oh no, I'm gonna isolate that, and every time you piss me off, I'm just gonna play your raccoon sounds.
You could you could start the show with that.
Like when we maybe we do like the thumbs up or thumbs down. The thumbs down is your raccoon noise. If we ever do that again. Damn, you know what? Like I'm getting drunk over here. Like,
Yeah, we
I'm
didn't
like
even
I don't
start
know.
talking about these. We didn't even start talking about the
Oh,
movies.
right, right. We actually had an agenda today. All right, so
Yeah, see, I
there are
told
two
you. I
movies.
told you.
Yeah, it's funny because I was just like, I don't know what we're gonna talk about, and like we're like, we only doing two movies tonight. Like, is that enough? And yeah, I guess we should get to them. So there are two movies that we think we decided to do like a focus on that we saw kind of trending and saw a lot of stuff online. One is this movie Diced, and the other is Stop Motion. And I want to start with Diced.
Okay.
And I don't know why I want to start with it, just because by the time I get really drunk, I'm gonna be really vocal about how much I did not like this movie. So like let's start with that one. So it's on Tubi. What I will say about the movie is it's 60 minutes long, or at least listed as 60 minutes, but it's really like 50 minutes because there's like 5 minutes of credits on either side. And even though it's 50 minutes, like it feels like it's like an hour and a half. So I don't know what's Diced about. Give us the plot
All right.
if there was one.
Diced, 2023, directed by Jeremy Rudd. He's fairly new director. It's a throwback movie, just like all new movies these days. So it takes place 1987. There's some like old nurse that like sucks at her job. So she releases a madman. His name is Benjamin Newman, I think, on Halloween Eve. And basically, this guy is being kept because he's a psychopath. He's one of the biggest psychopaths that they know, and she just let him go due to some faulty reading of paperwork.
Those government employees.
Yeah. The dude escapes. He gets right to work. Within 5 minutes, he's breaking into an apartment. He's killing people. He kills some like lame dude. He steals his amazing scarecrow costume. And his trademark is hacking off body parts. And when we take it from there, basically it's watching this guy kind of go on like a rampage between Halloween Eve and Halloween. So I kind of like the premise. I'm gonna be honest with you.
So what I will say is the one thing I will say that's positive about the movie. The scarecrow costume was cool.
It was cool,
I
definitely.
will give that. The thing that, and I'm gonna try not to mention this every 2 seconds, but the thing that there's a few things I really didn't like about this movie, but the main thing is this basically is Terrifier. It's Terrifier 1 and 2, even like everything about it. Like there's not even like it's a complete ripoff. And there's so many times it's an exact ripoff, and I'll get into that as we kind of go through this movie. And what kind of drove me nuts about it is like, I'm reading online about it, and the director like addresses that, and he's like, well, he's like, yeah, it was influenced by Terrifier, but Halloween was, I'm sorry, Friday the 13th was influenced by Halloween, and Terrifier was influenced by it, and blah, blah, blah. And look, I get if a movie's influenced by or derivative or similar to, but this guy literally took like Terrifier and just made it. Like, even like the music, and I believe the opening track he uses
Like
is
that
like
retro
from
wave
Terrifier.
track. Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
that cool
I think
retro
that
wave. Yeah.
and I think that was what was in Terrifier, if not similar, but like that's the soundtrack they use. Like the way it's kind of orange coloring is like Terrifier 2. The main character, and I forget her name, I think it's like Samantha or something like that, or maybe that's the actress's name. Like she's making her own
Cassandra. Yeah.
Cassandra.
Yes.
She's like making her own costume, which is a warrior costume, which is exactly what the lead actress in Terrifier 2 did. The killer like acts exactly like Art the Clown, like he's miming, he's trying to do silly shit. Like it was like such a blatant ripoff. And they even took like a scene from Terrifier and redid it. Like there's a scene in diced where two of the characters, two females, are in like a pizza place or a restaurant and they're talking, and then the scarecrow comes in and sits and is all creepy. Like fucking Terrifier. Like it's not similar. It's the same scene.
So listen, I feel you on that. And let me tell you, people are loving this film right
Are they
now.
though?
And I,
Who? Like,
yeah, they are,
yeah.
everyone. And I think it's because it's a huge nod to Terrifier. And think about it. He's a new director. He's influenced by new films. Like, what is the difference if he went and made a movie influenced by Halloween or Friday the 13th? We already saw hundreds of movies like that. So I don't know if I have that much of a problem with him kind of taking like his own his own version of a movie that he loves. And if you think about it now, I mean, Terrifier is not a new movie. It is already 8 or 9 years old, that movie. So for someone who was maybe like 16 or 17 or even 20 when they first saw it, they're like 30 now and they're making films. So I I didn't mind it because I thought it was extremely similar, but I liked the little nuances that he changed it up. I liked the scarecrow. I liked the character.
Yeah, I guess again, what I come back to is like influenced by is fine. And even if it was like, okay, this reminds me of that or it's similar to that, like I could take similar. It's an exact ripoff. It's like if you like, it's a low budget exact ripoff of. It's the same movie. It's like literally the same movie. Like where again, he's even stealing the characters and the scenes. And like to me, I have a big problem with that because there's absolutely nothing original about this. Like it is the same movie, other than it's not as good. And I'm a big Terrifier fan. I know you're not as much. I love the films. I think they were like a breath of fresh air in the past few years. But again, this is just it's that he didn't just say, you know what, I want to make a movie like Terrifier. He's like, I'm gonna make Terrifier, and this is how I'm gonna make, and that's a problem for me.
I mean, isn't imitation the best form of flattery? I mean, it's a
Yeah,
nod, and I'm
it's not a
like
nod. It's the same movie.
I liked it, and honestly,
Okay, I mean,
I probably liked it more than the second Terrifier that was like 3.5 hours long, and I fell asleep on it 3 times trying to get through it. I thought this was an easy watch. Thinking of Art the Clown versus any other killer. I mean, how many Jasons are there? It's like Madman. It's like, how many movies can you name that would be almost the exact thing, just with a different mask or costume on? So to me, it really it didn't bother me. It just feels like modern, you know.
okay, I mean,
I
let's
yeah,
we can
that's
take
kind
that
of
out of it because I
yeah,
think we're not gonna agree here, and that's
yeah,
totally fine. So let's actually like let's forget that Terrifier ever
yeah.
existed
Okay,
for the next 5 minutes,
okay, sure.
and let's talk about the movie itself. So I could excuse like a lot of different things with low budget filmmaking. Trust me, I get it. I've made films. I've fucked up a lot of things. Like there's a lot of things that aren't perfect, but there's a few things in this where I'm like, I can't believe that this happened. Like certain scenes are in like the wrong aspect ratio and they're like stretched. Like I don't know how that even happens. Like at first time it happened, I'm like, oh, that looks interesting. Why do they look super thin and like and then it kept happening like through other scenes. Like I don't know how you fucked that up, but like he did. Like
So I
like
couldn't find any information on the budget for this movie.
I'm sure it was nothing, which
I
again, I
searched.
get.
I really couldn't find anything. So I'm positive that there was some sort of issues there.
But budget has nothing to do with aspect ratio. It's a setting on the camera.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. He messed up. He's brand new. I don't know if he
It
did
happened a few
anything.
times. It wasn't just once. It was anyway.
I'm not quite sure if he did anything outside of a
No, I think this is his
short.
first film. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Look, I give people a pass, and like he made a movie, and like good for him, he made a movie. I
He did. It
respect
was
that.
campy. I mean, it was silly. It was bloody. Why not? I mean, I like the plot. I mean, there's like a Halloween party, and everyone's gonna go there, and there's shit's just gonna go down. And they're also handing out flyers to that Halloween party. So that reminded me of a party that we threw once.
The last party I ever threw, you mean?
Yeah. So like called
So
40s
just
on
I'm gonna
ice.
talk about that for a minute. Yeah. So Jerry and I threw a party once. I'm not gonna say where we threw it, but we threw a party and we called it 40s on ice. And basically, why we called it that is we filled two giant garbage cans up with ice and bought several cases of Old English 40 ounces and filled them up. And, we wanted to make sure this party was well attended. So we went to some places that might not have been the best places and handed out flyers. And to our surprise, some of those people ended up showing up.
It was wild. And I think that's exactly what happened in this film too. When you just hand out random flyers, man, anyone's going to show up. And it could be Art the Clown. It could be
I think it would have been better if Art the Clown came to our party, because the people that came were a lot more dangerous than Art the Clown.
Could be Cassandra, could be anyone. But yeah. So I mean, I thought that was funny. Like, I'm like, this is funny, but it felt real because honestly, back then, that's what you did. And I like that he had a good grasp of like what 1987 was like. And it's really easy to like lean on technology and things like that. So I give someone a little bit of credit, like when they do like a throwback movie and they have to deal with like how life was back then. So you can't text everyone, you got to make those flyers, you got to hand them out, and whoever shows up shows up.
One thing I will give them credit for is they've used a lot of practical effects for some of the gore. And the kills are mostly stabbing, and then he will dismember or rip people apart. And some of it actually looks pretty good and believable, where I'm like, okay, that was good. Some of it just looked fucking awful. When he cuts off that woman's hand, it really looked like a plastic hand. It looked bad. And like, I get it, it's budget. Like, I don't have a problem with it. And I know they did the best they could, but sometimes you just got to be like, you know what, that's really not going to look good, and maybe we shouldn't do that scene. But like, look, they tried. I'm not going to like hate them too much on that, because I get it. Like, it's tough to do that kind of stuff.
I mean, did he shoot this in 4K?
I doubt it. I don't know.
I mean, it did look, crystal clear to me. But if that same scene was shot in 1987 with that same hand, with the grainy kind of like way things look back then, he would have got away with it. So it's like,
But it wasn't though. Like, you got to like take account for that kind of stuff. Shoot it grainy. Maybe you should have put grain into it and made it look that way. It would have hid some of that stuff.
I agree with you there. That might have helped him out. It's funny because the more we talk about this, I feel like the more our opinions are diverging. So we're gonna have two very different outcomes, I think, at the end of this.
I absolutely hated this movie, and I resent that it was made.
Well, I thought it's pretty amusing to me, and this happens like all the time. And I want to get your opinion on this. There's that factory scene towards the end. That it feels like the haunted house scene, yes, from Terrifier does.
Yep.
But she's hiding from the guy, and he walks by, right? So like the killer is stalking her. He's pretty satisfied that he checked out that area, and he moves on and leaves. How come in every single movie that person has to get up and they have to move from that exact spot that was absolutely just checked by the murderer? He's satisfied that she's not there. And what do? They get up, they make a noise, they trip, they walk right into where he is, and they put themselves in danger. I mean, is this a hard trope we need to get rid of? Do we have to get rid of this?
I say it every time it happens, where someone's hiding in the closet. Yeah, they're hiding in a closet or in a cabinet or something like that. And you're right. The killer walks right by and goes on to the next room, and then stay there the whole night.
It's I understand it's not a movie if they stay there and we're just watching them. But would you say to me it's almost like it's like lazy writing, where it's like, all right, this person is gonna hide and they're gonna walk out and they're gonna turn the corner, and that's where the killer is going to be. I think we have to end this horror trope because people aren't that dumb. It's like like common sense would like you have to bring that into like a movie every now and then, just because it just feels dumb. It's like, oh, that was an easy out. So why'd you have her hide if she was just gonna walk right into like where the killer was? It's like, just either stay there or have the killer come back, do something. But I'm absolutely sick of that trope, and I really wish they would eliminate it. And seeing it in 2024 is just as annoying as it was in 1987, seeing that same trope.
Yeah, because it is lazy writing, because you get like this creepy, like, oh my God, is the killer gonna see the person that's hiding, or are they not? And then they walk away and you like exhale, and it's like, I've seen it so many fucking times. And you know what really drives me the most nuts It's whenever it's like a movie where, they just need to survive till dawn, or like, they just need to hang out for the hour before the cops come, or whatever it is, and they don't stay put. Like if I'm in a house and it's like there's demons running around, and if I just survive till dawn, I'll be fine, and I hide and they don't see me, I'm gonna sit for a couple hours. I'm just gonna chill right here because, like, even here though, too, like even if I stay in this closet, I'm probably safer than if I'm wandering around the house because at least I know they're only coming in this way. Like I could defend that. If I'm going out, like they could come from any angle. So to me, absolutely. And maybe people are that dumb. I don't really know, but yeah, it drives me insane every time I see it.
They need to do better. I think they just need to do better writing. They can't rely on like those old silly things. It totally disregards any sort of common sense or thinking that anyone would do. And they could easily, just as you said, they could easily correct that and do something else. Give them a reason to like come out of the hiding spot, like, oh my God, there are cats walking over there, and I don't want the killer to see my cat. So let me run out
Which
and
I
grab
would.
my cat.
Yeah,
You
I would
know,
do that to
it's
defend my
like,
cat.
yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean, like give it a reason, or they're getting close again. So I feel like but it's like I'm so sick of it, and there's just certain things that need to die as we move into like this next generation of horror films, and I feel like that is definitely one of them because it's stupid.
Yeah, I agree. I'm gonna get into a couple of like technical things that I didn't like about the movie. And again, like I hate to talk about like technical shit because again, I get it and like shit happens. But I remember there's a more than one scene where there are two characters talking and the music drowns out one of them where you can't hear them, but you hear the other person perfectly. I was like, what? Like, why can't I hear her all of a sudden, but I hear him perfectly? Like, and that happened, I think, more than once. I thought that was wild. Like, I don't even know how that happens. I'm guessing they used other takes or whatever, or just didn't know how to mix properly, so they made the music really loud. I don't really know, but that kind of drove me nuts. There was like a few scenes and again whenever they do something like more than once that's like is annoying the first time or weird the first time, I think like what is wrong with you? Like there were a few scenes where there'd be a bunch of people like talking and there'd be music playing and you wouldn't hear what they were saying. It was just like pantomiming, and it was just like, why are you showing us this? Like just either have them talking or don't have them talking. It was just bizarre that they would go back to that a couple of times. It's just odd. It felt like just weird. Why would you do that? Oh, the other thing was the music that happened whenever the killer was killing somebody. Like, what the fuck was that? With like the German chanting or whatever. Like the first time I heard it, I was like, okay, that's interesting. And then they
It's like
played
his
it
theme. It's like his theme.
yeah,
Yeah.
like it was so fucking
Yeah.
weird.
It can't be. It can't
It was
be.
definitely
I mean,
campy, but like I don't. But here's the thing: like I like campy when it's like meant to be campy. I literally think this person again, he give him I give him credit. He tried to make a movie, and like that's takes a lot. But like he literally had no idea what he was doing, and just again probably watched Terrifier 100 times. It was like, okay, I got a camera, I got some friends, I'm gonna go do this without actually like learning like how to do a movie, and maybe he'll learn more on the next one, and we can only hope. The other thing was too, like I talked already about how the movie really was only 50 minutes. And like there were certain things that like even the 50 minutes was like padded. Like there's like a long scene of this girl brushing her hair. Like the opening credits is her jogging, and they showed literally every like they even credited like nurse number one in the opening credits. And I'm assuming either like they were investor in the movie, like they were like, or he was just trying to drag out the runtime. But I thought that was really odd. Like, what was the point of that?
I mean, he probably wrote like 60 pages of script, and he's like, this is plenty. He's like, we could definitely make a movie with this.
I mean, my movies are like 69-page scripts, so you don't need a lot of script to like make a movie. Like you could just do other shit. Oh, one thing I thought was really funny, the opening scene, not the opening scene, but the scene where the killer kills the guy who's going to be the scarecrow, I guess.
Yeah.
The first
Yeah.
kill.
Yeah.
He's doing his makeup in the mirror and he's putting these like brown triangles under his eyes, and it had to be like the worst makeup job I've ever seen. Like it was just smudgy, and like I'm like, oh my god, this guy just sucks. I hope he does get killed. Luckily he does.
They're like, we got one take, and you're not gonna be able to practice. We only got this one thing of makeup here.
Yeah, like the makeup artist like went home for the day, I guess.
Yeah. So what I'm getting that what really bothered you the most was kind of like the technical kind of issues and the delivery of the final package there. And to me, I found those things quite funny and and entertaining. So I think we're definitely looking at it like two different ways. Because I'm like, yeah, it sucked, but it was like it's like a good kind of entertaining suck. Like I would 100% watch this movie again, and I bet I will. And it seemed like it left on some sort of cliffhanger, so I'm hoping there's a part two.
Yeah, I mean, again, the two big things that I don't like, the Terrifier thing, I just don't like. I have zero respect for someone who completely rips off a movie in this way. And yeah, the technical things did bother me, and I didn't find it funny because again, it just I could excuse a lot, and I get it. And my movies get bashed for technical things all the time, so like I'm sympathetic. But a lot of it was just fucking incompetence, man. And like, and maybe he should have just did this as a short. Like he maybe he should have just did like a 15-minute short, like figured it out, and then it's like did it a couple times. And it just boggles my mind that number one, this movie was released, and number two, that people are talking about it. I completely don't get it. But that's me.
I mean, people are loving it. I mean, can we get some numbers on this movie to see like how many people are streaming it? Because I
I,
just feel like
I don't know.
like
I
like I
don't want to
feel like
know.
I feel like it's peaking, and no one's really complaining about like the runtime or anything like that. I think it's like a good, like, because you're not paying for it. You didn't go to the theater to
Fair.
see this.
Yeah.
It's not like you spent like $15 to sit in a theater and then 50 minutes later you're getting back up. Like, what the hell just happened? I mean, you're sitting at home, you're looking for something shitty to watch. I mean, here it is.
Oh, yeah,
Here's
definitely something shitty to watch
here's
for
here's a
sure.
slasher movie that has a lot of elements that you're used to, that you're comfortable with, and you're going to find some enjoyment out of it. And that's really what I'm taking from it. I'm not a fan of Terrifier for the exact opposite reason. Those movies are too long. And I don't care what anyone says. I will die on this hill. Those movies are an hour too long.
I don't think so. The first one, I don't think is. I think the first one's only 90 minutes. Maybe it felt long to you, and that's fine. The second one, I agree, was too long. It was too long because the second one's like 2.5 hours, and it didn't need to be for sure.
So is Gladiator and Ben Hur, you know?
I'm a big fan of the movie, but like now when I watch it at home, I definitely skip certain scenes in it because it's just I don't need it. You know what I thought was really like funny about this movie. Again, the movie's like it's poorly written too, but like there's the scene where the scarecrow like sits on the woman's front porch, and a guy and his son, I believe, guy and his son come up to trick or treat. The woman is on like the other side of the house, so she goes back in the house and she engages with the trick or treater. While this is happening, the scarecrow gets up and walks away. The kid and the dad, who acknowledge the scarecrow, don't see this man get up and walk away. That's number one. And number two, like I think the kid says like that scarecrow you have is really creepy, and the woman doesn't even like say like what? Like she's just like, yeah. Like doesn't even acknowledge. Like if someone said that to me, I'd be like, huh? What scarecrow? Like, and I would look. She's just like, all right,
The,
cool.
the kid, the
Like
kid was like 6 though. I'd be like, what is this kid talking about? Like, who cares? Like,
you
and
wouldn't
I think
look.
I think I would have blew it off too. I'd be like, what's wrong with this kid? Like, was he at the neighbor's house and they have a scarecrow or something like that?
I would have been like, huh? Like, what are you talking about?
And again, I kind of like that, where the scarecrow was just kind of chilling out there, taking a little break, sitting on the chair.
I
Yeah,
thought that was creepy. Like that was like interesting, and I liked how they shot it from far away, so you saw the whole house. Like I thought that was creative.
that was probably the best shot the guy had. That was
Absolutely,
probably the best
absolutely.
shot the guy did. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, no, that was creative. I thought that was cool. Like, just that shot was cool. Oh, yeah, I'm trying to think if I do have any more notes. Yeah, just they couldn't have picked a more bland group of actors, but it probably was just his friends. Like, I get it. Like, I don't think there was really, and it's funny because there is a credited casting director, which I thought was hysterical, but like, I don't think they did auditions for this. I think it was,
Someone trying to break in. Yeah.
yeah, I think it was just like, okay, like these are our neighbors. They're going to be in this movie. Like, I don't think these people auditioned because none of them like none of them like were actors for sure, which is fine. Again, I have no problem with that. Like you do it, you make what you can make. Like that's not my big gripe with it.
Yeah, I thought the lead actor was okay. The Cassandra girl, she was okay. I mean, she's marginally worse than, say, Sienna from Terrifier 2.
Again, I'm gonna disagree with you completely. I don't think that at all. I think you just hate on Terrifier, but I think the lead actress, and I don't know her name, I thought was is really good in Terrifier. I think you hated on that movie before you even saw it. I think you were already like out to get it. But look, it's not for everybody. Like Terrifier's not for everybody. I understand that. And neither is Diced. So I don't have any more notes. I'm just going to repeat myself. So unfortunately, like, okay, and for those of you who skipped the last episode, which you should go back and listen to our last episode, we did come up with there is a drinking game that we play on this show, and there are multiple parts to it, but the one part we're going to get to right now is the number we rate every movie on a scale of 0 to 5 bloody knives, and the number of bloody knives that I pick is the number of seconds Jerry has to drink and vice versa. And you could either pick your champion and drink along with one of us or both. I would suggest both because why not get fucked up? You're home hopefully, or maybe you're driving. I don't know.
Maybe you're at work, and I still give the same advice if you're listening at work. So
I just forgot that most people do watch podcasts when they're at work or driving, so they probably are not playing along. But maybe some people are. Maybe this is like Friday night for them. Anyway, so I'm going to give mine first, and it sucks to do this because I do want to see you drink, but I just can't justify giving this anything, and I'm giving it a 0. I really am.
you cannot get this is not the worst movie in the creation of the
It's
movie.
not the worst movie in creation, but it's one of them. Look, if he had done something different, I could excuse the technical things. If like there's a lot of things I could get away with, but again, like just blatantly ripping off a movie in this way and not even doing it well, like to me, again, give the guy credit for trying to do something, but you got to do your own thing, man. Like come up with something, even if you're going to use the same slasher concept, just do it in a different way. But like you took a very specific movie and character and did the exact same shit, and you have all these other problems. So yeah, I don't ever want to even hear about this movie ever again. I got to
Wow.
give it a 0. I can't give it anything. I wanted to, and I struggled. I'm like, you know what? Maybe I'll just give it a 1 because at least the guy did something. But no, that I give no credit to this. Like 0.
Wow. This might go down in horrorhead history here.
I'm
I
pissed
don't
off.
I think we probably watched like 20,000 films, and I don't think any of them ever got a 0. So
I think, yeah, I'm sure there are some, and I'm sure we'll end up watching some. But yeah, this is the worst movie I've seen in a very long time.
I'm gonna take a sip anyway. So
All right,
cheers to me by
cheers.
my solo sip here. All right, so I feel a little different about this movie. I was entertained, and I thought it was funny and campy and stupid. And sometimes that mood just hits you right, and it must have hit me right. I liked it, and I think I'm going to watch it again, and I'm definitely going to keep my eyes out if there's a sequel or anything like that to it. So I'm giving it a 2. So that's where I'm landing on it. You know, definitely not the worst movie I ever watched. Definitely not the best movie, but it was decent. It was a horror movie. Oh, fuck it.
I could drink for 2. All right, 2 seconds. Cheers.
Cheers. I could drink with you, like a like a listener. One of our listeners hit me up and said that they were listening at work recently, and they were laughing out loud, and people thought that they were psychotic. And then I started thinking to myself, if they're listening to this podcast, maybe they are psychotic.
Yeah, like what's wrong with you? Like who wants to listen to us talk
Why
shit
are
for
you
an hour and a
spending
half?
like your life breathing? Why do you want to spend it listening to this? But they did, and I appreciate it. But your coworkers might be onto something.
When I saw we even had like one listener, like I was like, who's fucking listening to this shit? Like it's 2 guys getting fucked up and just like babbling about shit. But like, cool. I mean, hey, what else is there, right? Well, what else you gonna listen to right now? Like, and I tried to listen to a lot of horror podcasts. Just I was like, oh, let me see what other people are doing, and man, I have a hard time listening to any of them. So, I give people credit. So
Well, we definitely support the horror community. So
yeah, I'm not gonna say which ones I don't like. And when I find ones that I do like, I will call them out because I respect anyone for doing this. It's not easy. All right, so let's move on. Let's talk about the other movie we watched, which is a very different movie, definitely different than this movie, and was something I hadn't seen before. I'd seen similar movies, but I haven't seen this movie before. And the movie is Stopmotion. And at first I saw it was a Shudder original, and I was like, oh shit. After Suitable Flesh, I was like, I don't know if I could watch another Shudder original. Again, much different movie. So I will give the plot of this movie. I'm trying to think of what the main character's name is. Main character, I think it's Ella. Is it Ella?
Yeah, Ella. Yeah.
Ella. Okay, so it's about this woman, Ella, who is a stop motion puppeteer, basically, and her mother is a very well-known stop motion filmmaker. Her mother is overcome with, I believe, arthritis, where she's just not able to really use her hands. So Ella is the hands for her, and the mother tells her, move this object 1 millimeter, and she does, and they try to shoot this movie. Ella's not happy with this particular film, thinks it could be done better. So the mom goes, okay, what would you do? And she freezes up and is like, you know what? I actually have no ideas. Like I don't have any, I don't know what to do. I'm not really that creative. I want to be. Anyway, the mother falls ill and Ella is left to her own devices. So she decides, you know what? Like I'm going to finish my mother's movie for her. And as she's doing that, one day she gets a knock on the door, and it's a little girl who talks her into making a very different movie. So Ella and this little girl try to make this new stop motion movie that's a pretty fucked up movie. And as the creative process goes on, Ella descends deeper into madness, leading to a very brutal, violent climax. Yeah, so so that's stop motion. I don't know. I definitely have opinions about this movie, and it's funny because like when I finished the movie, I had one opinion. The more I thought about it, my opinion differed slightly because I was still thinking about this movie. So like I would love to know kind of what you thought about it first before I get into my critique.
First of all, I almost wish that that little girl walked up to Jeremy Rudd and helped him come up with the plot to his movie, and then you would have
Yes.
liked it a little bit more because it would have been a little bit more original. So, yeah, I mean, this movie, I never envisioned watching a horror film about stop motion. Apparently, this guy Robert Morgan, this is his thing. He has a couple films that involve stop motion, or it's a part of the plot. Maybe he did some shorts or something like that,
Yeah, I think this is his first feature, but he's done a few stop motion
which
shorts.
is strange. And I mean, what a strange category and genre to be in. And I was like, I didn't know that this movie was going to be about stop motion as in the film technique. I didn't really, it's like it's a name, so you don't really know. So I was pretty surprised. Like suddenly I felt like I was watching, oh, I'm going to be watching an artistic film tonight. And then I started thinking, is this going to kind of fall into that elevated kind of horror? And I'm like, let me really pay attention to this movie because I really felt like there was is going to be pretty deep. And overall, I mean, the movie, it just felt like tedious and tight, just like that stop motion movement. And it felt like Ella's world was just kind of getting so small. And I mean, that was really where the horror was living. It was living in her mind as she got like basically crazier and crazier, getting more deeper into this film that this strange girl kind of suggested to her. I thought it was creepy. I thought the kid was creepy. I thought the characters that she was creating for her movie was creepy. And it was like, at times it was hard to kind of understand what was going on or where it was going, because you were watching basically two separate movies. The movie that she was filming, which was creepy as hell, and then the movie that was going on, which was her life. So it was blurry. You didn't really know at times what was real, what was going on. She did do some drugs, right? She did take that acid or something like that, right? What was that? So I found it like it felt like it spiraled out of control around that time, and I wasn't sure like what was the cause. Was it her or was it that?
Yeah, so this is like, and the more I think about the movie, the more I do like it a little more. Because when I was in the movie, I'm kind of like, oh, I'm not into this movie. I'm not into this movie. And then afterwards, I was like, okay, I'll never watch it again. And then I started thinking about it. So the one thing, well, not the one thing, but one of the things I didn't like about this movie is that and I'm going to answer your question in a second, is that it's about, I guess, this woman's descent into madness. However, the way she's already mad from the beginning, apparently, and I guess nobody seems to notice this. So the scene where you're talking about where it's like trippy, and she goes to this party, and it's like almost like she's on acid because someone hands her acid, I believe. She explains later she didn't take it.
Oh,
So all of that stuff was just kind of her own kind of insanity, which I thought was interesting, an interesting twist. But it did bother me that, like, okay, here's this woman that is completely insane to the point where she becomes murderous in the end. But like her boyfriend doesn't notice, her mother doesn't. Maybe the mother not noticing is fine because the mother was a bit of a tyrant who didn't really care about her that much,
domineering,
apparently.
self-absorbed
Ye-
bitch.
ye-
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So maybe that's okay, but it just seemed odd that like here's this woman who's legit like a psychopath, who nobody tells. And I think in the beginning I was kind of like, okay, like I was expecting to see her gradually get crazier, which she kind of does, but it was odd that it was like she was already kind of crazy from the beginning. It just didn't have that outlet, and maybe just the isolation she puts herself through, or I think the fact that she didn't have like these creative ideas just kind of made her kind of lose it even more, where she finally goes ultimately insane in the end in a violent way. So when I watched it the first time, I was kind of like, I don't get it. Like, what's actually happening? It's not making any sense. I felt like the movie seems to jump around a bit, which maybe that was the point, that it's not completely linear, maybe. I don't really know. But yeah, like the more I think about it, like, and I like a movie that makes me think afterwards, where I'm like, actually, what about that? Like, that was interesting. Like, so it's changed my opinion on it like a few days later. And then as I started kind of researching the movie a little bit, I started thinking, oh, okay, like maybe I do need to watch this a second time. Maybe there's things that I just missed. Maybe they're not. Maybe I got a full understanding of the movie, and the writing was just poor, or maybe there's things that were just over my head the first watch that I need to kind of check out again. So
I almost wish I watched it twice. I totally missed that part. I could have been making popcorn or something. I don't know. But yeah, it felt a little bit disorganized. But what I did feel is I really found myself locked into the storyline of the stop motion movie that she was creating, and the way the little girl would break it up and only tell her like a very, very small portion of the story. And I'm like, man, this kid is the best storyteller here, out of this movie, because I wanted to know what was going to happen next in that movie more than I want to know what was going to happen next to these characters. And I thought that I found that very interesting, because that was the storyline that I was kind of into, and learning about the Ash Man, which we haven't discussed yet, who was the creepy character that she made out of dead animal corpses and
and meat.
carcasses and corpse clay. And if you want to talk about the boyfriend, I mean, he does walk into like this weird apartment that she rents, and there's like squalor and filth and dead animals, and think about what must have smelt like in there. And he's just like, hey, how's the film going? He's like, not even like, oh, are these, like making a film here, like not even really,
Why does it stink like rotten meat?
yeah, like
Yeah.
not like saying like, hey, what the hell's going on here? I think you might be going a little bit too far, and getting, too involved with this movie that really consumed her. So, but he doesn't really do that. So I don't know how great of a boyfriend he was to begin with.
Yeah, like maybe he just didn't notice she was insane because he just didn't really care that much. I don't know. And look, we're gonna spoil this movie a lot for everybody, just to let you know, because I do want to kind of dive into it. I think it's interesting what you said about the stop motion being almost more interesting than the actual movie. And I think that is because I think the characters were not that interesting. And maybe that was by design, because like I think the lead actress, Aisling Franciosi, I believe is her name, and hopefully I pronounced that correctly.
Ashlyn Fracosi.
Is that how you say it? Okay, Aisling. Yeah, I think she was good. I just think her character was just kind of boring and bland and sad, and you didn't really weren't really as invested in her as a character. So when you go to this kind of fantasy world and this little girl coming in with this story, that you're right, I wanted to know how that story ended. And I think the other thing too, it's like this movie was predictable but unpredictable at the same time. Or like it was very obvious to me, at least early on, that this little girl was a figment of her imagination. Like whether it was her own younger self who was abused or traumatized perhaps, or something supernatural. You could kind of figure that out, and I kind of felt that okay, this is at some point this is going to have like a violent conclusion. I didn't really expect it to go full body horror like it did, which was a really nice surprise. And I think that was really well done. Like there's the scene where her leg is sewn up because she like mutilated herself, and she like opens up the stitches, and it's slow. It takes a long time, and the sounds are just gnarly and gross, and you hear the blood squishing and things crunching, and oh my God, it was fucking sick.
Most hardcore person turning away. I mean, I don't care who you
Yeah.
are. It was gross, man.
They did a great job with that. I think again the stop motion characters, the Ashman and the little girl, were fucking freaky and terrifying and just gross and like. And it's funny, I was looking this up because I was like, I wrote a note like, how are they making things with human meat that's going to stink, blah blah blah. But apparently there are some stop motion artists that do use human meat for their
Wow.
characters, so it is a thing. I don't think this woman was refrigerating or freezing the stuff afterwards. I think she was just leaving it around because she was insane. But like, that is a thing. So like, I was like, okay, I get that. I do like how again it escalated from, and this was predictable too, right? It's like first it's like meat, then it's like a dead animal. The next step has got to be humans. Like it's
Gotta
like
be in
that was coming.
person.
So like I
Yeah.
knew that was coming. However, how they got to that is not what I expected. Like it definitely took a turn. And I would say the last 30 minutes of this movie are fucking crazy and different. It's a different movie. Like I think the third act and the whole rest of the movie. And maybe not. Maybe it's
Yeah.
not. Maybe I've just looked at it differently because it was unexpected. But
No, I mean, I'm with you. I felt like, first half hour, 40 minutes in, it felt like predictable. It's like I know where this is going. I did not think of that little girl as being her. That's a great angle, and that's kind of changing the way I'm thinking about this now. I was assuming that she was some sort of ghost or something like that, but I think you're onto something there, that it might have been her, and this is how it's like expressing itself through trauma here later on in life, because obviously, I mean, the movie starts out with this mother, and when within 2-3 minutes you're like, all right, this mother's a bitch and we hate her and she's a shitty mother and there's nothing to like about this character. They made that crystal clear. So yeah, it could definitely be the way that she processed, some of that trauma into this character. So I like that angle, and that's actually adding another layer for me. So I like that.
yeah, what made me think that too is there's when she's talking about the next part of the movie, and she's like, and then the Ashman touches the little girl,
Hmm.
and she says it multiple times, like to really drive that point home. So my assumption is like there was some kind of abuse, whether it be from the mother or like another person that wasn't there, that she's buried all of these years that is just now coming out now that she's actually had a moment to herself. And that was another thing too, where again I'm like, how did she go from here to like being like utterly insane? But now I think she was that way the whole time. And again, it was just she'd never had her own space. She was always doing everything. She cooked dinner for her mother. She ate with her mother. Like she wasn't allowed to go out at night. She had to like sneak out. She's a grown woman. She had to sneak out of the house to see her boyfriend and then sneak back in because the mother was so domineering. So I think that now that like she had time to like be in her own space, all of this stuff kind of came up that she'd buried probably her whole life. So again, I need to rewatch this movie just to see like because I didn't pick up on it until after.
I really like where you're going here right now, because I'm remembering parts of the film now where the boyfriend wanted to like take her away from that apartment and bring her back to her house, and she just didn't want to go because she was probably finally for the first time able to express herself. Because yeah, really up until like that moment, everyone's telling her what to do, whether it's the mother, whether it's the boyfriend, boyfriend's sister, the little girl that even though could have been her, it's giving her direction and telling her what to do next. She's not really doing anything on her own. So yeah, it could be that like this freedom opened up, and even though that we were supposed to assume that she wasn't creative, she had all this inside, and it finally like worked itself out. So I do like that.
Yeah, maybe she was too terrified to actually express it. And like even the mother calls her puppet, which I'm guessing is like you're my puppet kind of thing, which is like I at first I was like, is that her name? And then I was like, okay, no, that's not her name. That's just I guess an insult. Maybe it was meant to be endearing, but to me it was like an insult because the mother's shouting it at her like a lot in the early on. So Yeah, I think she just had buried trauma and we don't get the full story, which is fine. And maybe like you said, she didn't want to go back to that house, maybe partly because she had her own freedom, but maybe like some traumatic shit happened to that house and she didn't want to go back. We don't know.
That's great, and they absolutely do not give any of that back information. So they're leaving that up to you to figure out, and that's the only part of the film that I thought was a little bit contrived with the whole kind of puppet thing with the mother. I mean, she basically tells you exactly how this movie is going to end and what's going to happen, and basically given a description of like how a puppet is utilized, and we could almost say that that's what happened to Ella. I mean, whatever it was, whether it was supernatural or whether it was herself, her different personality of hers, however we could kind of work, it's once it was finished, just put her away, and then she was done with. And to me, I was like, yeah, it could be a little bit elevated. I see that. It's a little bit of a thinker there, but to me, it's like, man, they just told you the whole story right there. And I thought they could did that part just a little bit better.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And again, the movie's flawed in a lot of ways because I think there's just a lot of information we don't have. And maybe again, maybe it's by design. I think it's probably just the writing or just things they just didn't get to for whatever reason. But look, again, there's some super cool things in this movie. The scene where she like I think she's in the shower and she like is touching her skin and it's like almost like she's becoming that mortician's wax doll was super creepy. Oh my God, the one thing I've never seen before, and it's always like we've seen thousands of kills in our long career of watching movies, thousands, maybe tens of thousands of kills. I have never seen a kill with a camera tripod before, and that was fucking cool. And it was gnarly too, and like that was sick. Like first she hits her with the camera, and I'm like, okay, cool. And then she just bashes her with the tripod. I was like, I never seen that. That was sick, and that was really well done and cool. Like I believe there's two kills in the movie, and they are brutal kills. And
That was, yeah, I mean, that was it. That was Polly, the boyfriend's sister there, who stole her concepts because she was also some sort of stop motion either director or uh writer or something like that. It wasn't quite clear like what she did, but apparently they seem a little bit competitive, and Polly felt that she was probably more talented or further along than Ella was, because there's definitely some animosity there. But yeah, I mean that tripod like to the throat. It's like what? Who? Like if you're gonna do two kills, that should definitely be one of them. Because I'm like, man, I'm like, she's not gonna kill her with that, and it's just going slow. And it was going in deeper, and it's going slow, and it's just going down. I'm like, she is going to kill her with this, and it was it was nasty for sure. And yeah, never saw anything like that.
another thing too, I wrote this note down. It changed towards the end, but I believe in the early on in the movie, there's lots of scenes that don't have any music whatsoever. And that just added to the creepiness where there was just like some sound design. Towards the end, you start getting more of a score and music and as it builds up. But I believe early on, there's a lot of scenes where it's like you don't really hear a lot of stuff other than like what's going on. I thought that was like an effective way to kind of, bring you into this like isolated world where there's not even music. It's just
I agree. I agree with that, and that could kind of lead to like my feelings of it being like so tight and constricted that you feel like you're trapped in this little world. Yeah, I didn't notice that. That's a great call out, because I didn't know why I was feeling that way, and I guarantee that kind of led to it.
another thing I noticed too, and it happened a few times, and at first I thought it was just me, but there's lots of times where the sound is really muffled where other people are talking, specifically the boyfriend talking, where I couldn't really hear what he was saying. And I think that was by design, maybe to show her kind of leaving reality. I couldn't really tell why they did that. Maybe in the second watch I'll figure it out. But did you notice that too?
I did, and I'm looking at my note, and I'm trying to figure out maybe that's probably what this note means. I felt like the soundscaping needed some work, so maybe
Yeah,
that's like what
they did it often, so I think it, I only noticed it. I think it was intentional and probably symbolic. It annoyed me for sure because again, I don't want to be fucking with my volume at all, and like especially if I'm watching a movie late at night, I'm probably So I'm probably like not realizing like what's happening. I'm just like, wait, did I just go deaf? Like, is what's going on with this movie? And then like I'll hit the volume all the way up, and then someone will talk and blow my speakers out. But I noticed it a few times, so I think it was intentional. I think it was probably showing her in and out of reality. I might be wrong there, but that's what I noticed. It did annoy me though, and I didn't really. I wish they didn't do that.
Yeah, if you're gonna have dialogue, then it should be there. Otherwise, it's
Or do it once. Do it one time as like a cool effect, and then like I feel like they did it like 3 or 4 times, maybe more. You know what else I wrote down about this movie? You know what it reminded me of? Different, completely different movie, but it reminded me of like a bigger budget version of that movie Bliss that I know you really like. I like that movie
oh
too.
yeah.
It kind of
Oh,
made me think of that, and that really is like about an artist's descent into madness and drugs and things like that. And early on, I'm like, oh, this is kind of just like this.
I mean, that was like the theme of this particular film, and that could actually be the theme of that film too, is that a true artist puts themselves into their art, and then you could kind of put literally at the end of that, because that's how both these films kind of end up, where they're a part of their artwork, or they use people for their artwork. But yeah, yeah, you know, that's a good reference. I'm gonna watch that again, I think.
Yeah, no, I like that movie too. I like the movie more. The more I see it, I like it. And Bliss is like really low budget, but I think it's effective and really well done. What was it? The other note I have is, oh yeah, like I don't really know the market for stop motion animation. Like I know it's extremely niche and something you don't really see very often. But again, there are all these people that seem to like be living a life off of it. And I'm thinking like, how does Ella make money? Like that nobody like how do you sell this movie that she's making? Even the movie the mother was making like looked really fucking boring. And like I'm like,
Yeah,
who's
the
gonna
little
watch
girl said it
this?
sucked.
Yeah, it did. And she's right. It did suck. I'm glad she tried to make a different movie. But I'm like, okay, what do you even do with this? It ends up in short film festivals and
it,
cool,
it
but like,
looked like there was like, for this particular setting, that there was like this cool like kind of social media underworld where people were watching like these stop motion shorts.
which I get.
And
Like you can see that in Brooklyn. Like I could see
yeah,
this
it's total
apartment being there in like
100%. Yeah.
Williamsburg or something, where you
Yeah,
get a
but
bunch of like trust fund kids and they're just like got
it's like, yo, did you see this yet? And it's like a 2-minute video for they probably do all sorts of stuff, funny things, weird things, creepy things. So I'm assuming they were kind of trying to create like some sort of world where this is popular, because I believe that this director probably believes it should be more popular.
yeah, I mean it's his thing, right?
Yeah,
And
it's
maybe
totally his thing.
he's made money out of it. And look, I think it's super cool that like this is his thing. He's good at it. The stop motion is really good in this and really effective. Yeah, it looked awesome. And I'm not I wouldn't say I'm a fan of that kind of stuff because to me it's usually again there's not a lot of there's no dialogue. It's kind of boring. I can appreciate it, but I would never watch it on my own. But yeah, it's really well done here. And the fact that he was able to incorporate a lot of it into this movie in a way that makes sense. And I'm not like when I first put this movie on, I'm like, oh my God, if this is going to be like 50% stop motion animation, I'm completely not interested in this movie. But I think they really did a great job of incorporating it in a way that again made sense. I wanted to see more of the movie within a movie, which a lot of times I'm like I don't like that kind of concept, but I think it was effective. And it's funny, like again, when I was watching this movie, I had a very different opinion of it. And the more I think about it and talk about it, I do like it a little bit more. And I am going to watch it again. And I hope the second time I watch it, I enjoy it more. And or I'm not just like, oh yeah, all the critiques I had are accurate. I don't really know. So yeah, I'm kind of it's an interesting movie to dissect and talk about it for sure. And I it is one I recommend people checking out if you want to see something different.
It is super different, and honestly, I never saw anything quite like this before. Again, going into it, I just saw that there's a lot of buzz about it, and I didn't do any like upfront research. So seeing that there was actually stop motion was kind of shocking, and I was quickly going to be like kind of turned off, because I was thinking of like there was like Christmas movies from like the 70s
Rudolph
and
the Red-Nosed
80s. Like
Reindeer.
I'm about to hate this, but I mean, I thought it was beautifully shot, and it was gorgeous, and the stop motion was quite incredible, and it actually got me interested in stop motion and how it's filmed and how precise and um you know I mean, that's kind of crazy. Like, just to be that dedicated to that sort of art. I found it cool, and I am going to definitely watch this again because I feel like maybe I did miss some parts of it because I think I probably got busy trying to figure out what was going to happen next, and there's just no way of knowing because it was basically two separate stories in parallel, and there was no way to know. And I like the twist, it's like, eh, who knew? I mean, you knew, but you didn't know, you know.
So what do you think the ending, the final scene means? Because I at first when I first watched it, I was like, I have no idea where they're going with this. But like the more I think about it, the more I kind of starting to develop an opinion. But what do you think? Just completely spoil the ending. Like what happens? She like finishes the movie basically, and then puts herself in the box where the stop motion character would go. Like, what do you think happened? Do you think? Yeah, go ahead. What do you think?
I mean, it felt like a contrite allegory that they were trying to wrap up, the mother's opinion of her, and that's how they ended it. So, I'm not quite sure what I think about it, other than it's just reflecting, what the mother said. So I could be off here.
Yeah, I'm not really sure either. Like, I don't know if it was okay now that she's finished creating her own thing, like that part of her dies and she becomes that little girl again, perhaps, or
Hmm.
I'm not really sure. I need to give it a rewatch to kind of really unpack that ending
I
because
feel like she's going to make more movies. I feel like
I
this is
would
going to
she
be a
has to,
banger.
right?
She's going to
Or
be
did she do now that she made this one movie? Well, she's going to go to jail for murder, most likely, but
well.
or at least in an asylum. I mean, they're going to find those bodies. She left them there. I mean, they're going to start stinking at some point. But
Yeah, she did rent that apartment. I'm not sure
at
she's gonna get
some
the
point,
security
landlord's
deposit
coming.
back.
Yeah,
It's like, what the hell happened in here?
I don't know. I mean, I guess it's a death and rebirth kind of thing, or I don't really
Really?
know.
Okay. All right. I could definitely maybe see that. Yeah, I just thought she was ending it just as her mother told her.
That's possible too. Yeah, I mean, she was a puppet of somebody the whole movie, whether it's the little girl or their mother.
In my head, though, when she got into that box, I'm like, oh man, she's gonna be like, the first thing I thought, I'm like, she's gonna be super famous. She's gonna make it in the movie. I'm like, because when people see this, they're gonna be blown away, and that's and that could just be maybe like a jerk in my thinking, but yeah, I
She'll
thought she was
definitely
gonna.
be notorious,
Yeah, I thought she was
infamously.
gonna pop right out of that box, pop some champagne, and be like, let's shoot another one because this is gonna blow up. But that's probably not at all what is gonna happen. So
And I get the feeling that the kills were very real and that actually did happen, but it all for all we know, it could just be in her head, right? It could
could
just
have
be a
been her head.
delusion.
That was the
And
confusing part. What was real and what wasn't real, and
so who
and
knows? Yeah.
I mean the muddy speaking. I mean that could have been a part of it. That maybe he wasn't even saying any. There's so many layers. I mean, I guess I don't know if we would ever know, but I think they did a lot. Maybe too much for this particular film with their talent and budget.
It's just one of those where I really want to talk to the director because I would love to know what was intentional or like what was bad writing. Like, did you want us to think this much about it? Or are we thinking this much about it because you didn't give us enough? Like, I don't know the answer to that. I like to think that everything was like premeditated and planned perfectly, and like he had this whole idea start to finish, and that we're asking these questions because he wanted us to, versus like there were things left blank because he didn't know the answer to that. But I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt.
I well, how about this? How about you're talking to somebody about one of your films and they propose a concept to you that you never thought of it, but it sounds really, really cool. Do you come right out? You personally, I'm talking about you personally. Are you going to be like, yeah, that was my intention? Or no, that's not at all what I was thinking? And wait, they said something very cool. I want to really drive that home that what they said to you was a very cool concept.
Yeah, no, I've been put in this position before, and I will come clean about it. Because
You
and
will. Okay.
the reason why I'll come clean though is because I do have a very specific point of view, and I do try to think about things as much as possible, and I do include a lot of symbolism, foreshadowing that most people are not going to get. But like, I do acknowledge, I'm like, that's a really cool idea, but actually this is what I intended, just because I'm proud of what I intended. And even if their idea was cooler than mine, like, which it is sometimes, right? I still am proud of my idea. So no, I'll come clean on that. I'll be like, yeah, I actually didn't intend that. Or sometimes I'll be like, you know what? Like, I didn't intend that, but it probably was in here somewhere based
Somewhere,
on
yeah.
all the influences. Like, I don't think, uh, I don't know if art is always accidental, right? I think it does come from
Comes from
somewhere.
somewhere. Yes.
Yeah, so I will acknowledge that, and then sometimes I'll think about it and be like, oh yeah, actually that does make sense because this, like just to give an example, like there's scenes that I've written in movies. So there was like a scene in a movie I did, Maydroid, where, and I don't know how interesting this is to people, but there's a scene where the guy gets a text message from his ex that he's cheating on the Maydroid character with, and she sees his phone and reads this text. And I didn't realize it at the time. I just wrote the scene because it seems very normal. While we were filming it, I was like, holy shit, this actually did something very similar to this happened to me that I just didn't even notice until we actually did it. So yeah, I think some things just aren't, yeah, I don't think art's necessarily accidental, but yeah, no, I'll acknowledge it. I'll be like, I actually didn't think of that, but like that makes sense.
I mean, there you go.
I
Life
want to take credit for shit, but like,
life imitates art, art imitates life. Just depends on
yeah,
which side you're on. So yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And thanks for being honest there. So I'm gonna hit Robert Morgan up in his DMs, and I'm gonna see if he comes clean with some of
yeah.
his
Let's get
thoughts.
him on the
Let's
show.
see if
Let's
he
get him
wants to
on
come on the
here.
show and see if he'll open up to
We'll be gentle.
really where his head was at, because he does propose a lot here, but delivers on very little bit of it. And definitely curious like what other people think of this film, where their thoughts are they taking it for face value, or are they looking a little deeper? You and I both have creative art and history backgrounds, so it could just be us kind of running wild with it, and it could just be something completely at face value to someone else. So I'm curious what other people think. I fall somewhere in the middle there. I think he proposes a lot, tells us a little bit, and I fill in the rest with what I'm chalking up to like some sort of madness, possibly bipolar, possibly um drug into, I don't know, it could be really anything here. So
Yeah, maybe that's the point, right?
yeah.
So breaking it down, bloody knives. How much am I drinking?
So I said a lot tonight, but I did like this movie. I mean, it was definitely, I say it all the time, it was a slow burn and it caught fire. It really did. It was worth the wait. The payoff was there, and a lot of times you watch a slow burn and you end up being very disappointed. So I think how it wrapped up made up for the whole film. So I'm going with 3.
Nice. Okay, I'm gonna drink 3 seconds. Ready?
Do it. That's a
Ah,
lot of proof. It's a lot of proof
whew,
right there.
whew.
Man, I hope I didn't talk you into like a higher star rating
Yeah.
now.
So
So
here's the
I'm a
thing. I'm
little
gonna talk about
nervous
it.
now.
I'm gonna be completely honest with you. So after I finished the movie, I was like, okay, it's gonna be two bloody knives. Two. It's a two. I didn't like it. I'm never gonna watch it again. Like there's all these things that made no sense. Then as the week went on, I thought about it more and more. And then I was like, you know what? Actually, I would rewatch this again just to see what it is I missed, or if there is more to it. 2.5. As we're talking about the movie now, and I'm like really kind of unpacking it and talking in real time, I am I'm gonna give it a 3. I think, look, again, it's not a movie I'm gonna watch over and over again. I do want to watch it again. I respect what they were trying to do. It's something completely different. Is it not the best movie in the world? It's not even, I don't even know it's my kind of movie. But yeah, I'm giving it a 3. I think it's better than average. I think it's worth watching, and I'm gonna watch it more than once. That's saying something. So 3 seconds for you.
All right. I mean, it's more than diced. So I deserve this. So cheers.
Cheers.
Oh man. Wish you got me earlier tonight when there was some ice in there.
I know we should have started with
That
this one
was
first.
I could lit that on fire and heated my house with that. That was brutal.
You know, it's funny. Like I started with Diced because I didn't think we'd have much to talk about regarding it based on my opinions of the movie. I'm like, I'm gonna say like two sentences and we're gonna be done. And then I was like, okay, we're gonna have to fill in time, so I could probably go on and on about stop motion, but we ended up talking about Diced too. So. And I'm completely slurring now, by the way. Like I can
That's
barely keep my eyes open for
well,
those of you who can see
I
the
mean,
video.
I mean, it is Tuesday. I mean, for me, it's late, but for you, it's like, the early evening. It's probably still daylight over there.
Yeah, you know what it is? It's bright as fuck out, but like I'm probably gonna have one more drink and I'll be in bed by 9. So
Nice. So, I mean, it sounds like we're wrapping up here. So,
yeah,
I got a
fuck it.
I got a question here for you. What could the listeners expect for our next one? What are we doing here?
So that's a good question. So we might have a special guest next weekend.
Ooh.
We might have a good friend of mine, actor musician Anthony Rainville. It's depending on his schedule and if he books something or not. And I'm not sure what we're going to talk about. If for whatever reason he can't make it, we will probably do our Amityville focused episode. So we will see.
So it sounds like some exciting stuff. I mean, either
It's basically going to be the best episode you ever heard. So you should come back.
we're gonna subject a guest to basically us, which is pretty brutal, or we're going to talk about Amityville, which is one of my favorite topics to talk about. So yeah, that sounds pretty exciting. I'm looking
Yeah, we're either
forward.
going to get someone trashed or it's going to be just you and me again. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, does he have to sign anything before he gets on here? Because like he may not enjoy the rules, but he does have to participate. So
Yeah, no, I'm making sure to make sure they have health insurance and everything like that
yeah,
because
and a
they might
nice
need it.
full bottle of maybe bourbon. We'll accept whiskey, maybe a
Yeah,
brandy,
you know what? I
perhaps
like
cognac.
so like actually we got to talk about that. Like, do they need to drink whiskey or do they need to just drink with us?
I
I
mean,
think
I would prefer them to be out of their element and just drink bourbon or whiskey, whether or not that's their drink or not. But we really can't make someone go out and buy it, you know, like unless we're like, sponsored by Clyde May, the best bourbon I ever
which
had
might
in my
happen.
life.
Wait, I'm sorry, say that
um,
again because I talked over your plug.
the best bourbon I ever had in my life. That's Clyde May's. In case like we get something like that where they ship us a case and we could just send these out to our guests to get them as new customers, that would be fantastic. But otherwise, I don't know if we could force anyone. But yeah, I mean, let's just say it has to be liquor. How does that sound?
I think, all right, let's see, because I do have another friend who may come on soon that is probably going to want to drink red wine, but
Champs?
let's
Can we can we
should we
do
just pop
champs? Can we
bottles?
just pop bottles on like a
I
Tuesday
mean,
night?
fuck it. Yeah, let's see what happens. Let's see what I can make Anthony drink or when he comes on. So we'll figure
All
it
right,
out.
so
But
it's TBD. We don't know how this is going to go, and so far we haven't known one step of this podcast so far. But we hope everyone out there is enjoying it, and we hope you start telling people about this. But even if you don't, we are still going to keep drinking, and we're still going to be talking a lot of shit, and that's not going to stop. So
I'm drinking no matter who listens. I don't care if it's just my mom listening. I'm doing this and that's that. But anyway, yeah, have a great night, everybody. We'll talk to you all soon.